Good afternoon, beautiful people. Hope you're doing well. I want to start off today's show because we have a lot to talk about. One specific thing is that we were being primed for essentially a takeover of our free speech here in this country. But there's one thing that's been on my nerves. I was doing a little bit of quick grocery shopping this afternoon, and I got a little upset. I was going through the store, and I saw this. I was like, dagnabbit. They took my Aunt Jemima off the shelf. I was not happy to see it. I was a little upset. I was like, well, I can't run a tariff war about Aunt Jemima. What are we doing here? What are we doing? I was sad. I may have shed a tear. And I posted on X. And I said, this tariff war is out of control. When you take my beloved Aunt Jemima off the shelf, well, I take that personally. So I was a little sad. I was a little sad about that. And there's a lot of things that are happening today, right? We have the Bank of Canada announcement where they've come down another 0.25% on the overnight rate. And then, Tiff Macklem, the governor of the Bank of Canada, gave a not so confident speech on the issue and said, there's a lot of things that are at play. It could be bad. It could be bad. You pick which one you want. It's not going to be good, whether which way this goes. The tariff war just has to end now if we want to see anything positive on the horizon. Not looking good for Canadians. It's great news in terms of if you're a variable rate holder. Great news for you. Your mortgage payments are coming down. But in terms of the outset for Canada and its economy, not looking too spicy. It's a little rough. It's a little rough at the moment. But let's get into today's story. Priming. Priming. What do I mean by priming? Well, at this point in time, I'm starting to see over the past 3 months or so, specifically over the past 3 months, Canadians have been getting primed by our media landscape and our politicians of limiting free speech and the services we rely upon for that free speech in this country, saying that maybe they should go away. Maybe they should go away. So let's explain what I mean by priming. Well, first off, priming is a term that we use in the user experience space when we're designing digital products or designing a service for our users. We make sure to implement visual language or visual cues throughout a user's journey that will kind of signal in their brain by the time they get to the end of that user journey that they should take an action on a specific item or a specific screen. And this is what they do. The technical jargon is subtle visual or verbal suggestions help users recall specific information, influencing how they respond. Priming works by activating an association or representation in users' short-term memory just before another stimulus or task is introduced. I use this in my own work, is to really help someone understand how they use a product or how they use a service to help their lives get better and allow the service to improve their lives. That is how you use this for good. But lately, in our media landscape, I'm starting to see the left-leaning politicians in our media using this specific tactic to prime Canadians to be accepting of us losing our free speech in this country. What do I mean? We'll start off with Elizabeth May here, shall we? Probably saw this clip, said over a month ago or so now, where she goes off on Elon Musk and, talks about the platform X.
Our solution in the Green Party is we as Canadians and our government should say there's no such thing as a platform. You're a publisher. And Meta and Twitter and X and all of them would have to abide by the jurisprudence of hundreds of years of a publisher's responsibility for what they publish. And the anonymous and rule-free world in which social media operates could end simply and quickly, but of course Parliament would have to be in session, to say, in Canada, we don't recognize something called a platform. You've invented this term for yourselves so that you can, as profiteering transnational corporations, interfere in our lives and harvest our lives to make money for yourselves, threatening our democracy, threatening our journalism. So you're publishers, and we're not going to censor what you publish, but if someone wants to sue you, you'll be responsible for the words you publish, regardless of whether it comes from a foreign bot or a Canadian citizen.
So you catch that right there, right? We're not going to censor you. We're just going to sue you and essentially apply lawfare to you to influence what you say or what you do. It doesn't matter if it's a Russian bot, she says, or a Canadian citizen. We will do that. You can see that from classic Lizzie May over here. That's a classic thing she would say or do. But again, that's just the start. That's just the beginning. We have The Star, which is an opinion piece. This was one of the more recent pieces, March 8th. Why Canada should seriously consider banning Elon Musk's X. With mounting evidence that Twitter and X are manipulated by its owner to promote divisive prejudice and even imperialist ideas, Industry Minister Champagne must consider its role in our national public conversation. Champagne should look to arguments made for the banning of TikTok to evaluate whether Twitter serves Canada's best interests. Recent debates in both American and Canadian policy circles have spotlighted TikTok as a national security threat. Critics warn that the app, which is almost certainly connected to the Chinese Communist Party, could sway public opinion and undermine national cohesion. These concerns prompted discussions about banning TikTok to protect democratic institutions from foreign interference. When we examine Twitter through a similar lens, the parallels are striking. If a platform's ownership or operational influence originates from an adversarial state, it becomes inherently suspect. That's just another, again, it's an opinion piece from the Star, but again, they're putting it into the ether. They're putting it in our media cycles. Ideas to think about, they say. We look at from February 3rd. Should Canada ban X and Tesla? Why calls are growing? As U.S. President Donald Trump and Elon Musk may take aim at Canada, some high-level observers are calling on the federal government to consider sanctioning or even banning corporations owned by those close to Trump, much as it did with the Russian oligarchs after the invasion of Ukraine. We better have a report growing up on American influence. Former Foreign Affairs Minister Lloyd Axworthy said at a recent panel discussion. He's told the January 27th event held by the Canadian International Council that he's increasingly worried about meddling in Canadian domestic affairs by Musk, a social media mogul and the world's richest man. He added that other owners of big digital platforms could undermine Canadian democracy. So again, that's February 3rd. And we have March 7th, the Tyee says X threatens our democracy. Canada should ban it. Again, you're kind of catching this theme of priming that's been happening since January from politicians. Elizabeth May, we showed here, Jagmeet Singh has been putting out similar ideas. And then you have the CBC here. The US has covertly destabilized nations. With Canada, it's being done in public. Former senior Canadian intelligence officials say Canada needs to be on the lookout for campaigns aimed at destabilizing the country amid US President Donald Trump's escalating 51st state threats. And they told the CBC News that the most potent weapon wielded by the Trump administration to advance the cause of annexation would likely not be the intelligence agency's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. I would regard Mr. Musk as a problem, said Ward Elcock, who headed CSIS for a decade, including the 9/11 attacks, and also served as national security advisor. I think that's on a number of fronts. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, has worked to destabilize many governments and nations in the past, using methods as mundane as corruption, as drastic as assassination, but the former spy chiefs say a campaign aimed at Canada would likely rely less on cloak and dagger tactics and more on social media, such as the Elon Musk-owned X platform. He doesn't say things that are not true. Yes, CIA's done some sketchy stuff in the past. It's been questionable. But again, more rhetoric, more media, more stories coming from the CBCs, the Globals, the Star, our political officials saying we should look at banning or quelling voices on social media. Because I do find it interesting, right? How I didn't hear a thing, never heard a thing from the Liberals, from the NDP, from the Greens, Elizabeth May, about quelling the voices on X or on Facebook when they had a more left-leaning slant, or they are run by liberals, or the fact-checking was run by liberals. I didn't see any complaints then. But all of a sudden, some of these platforms are taking more of a down-the-center approach, maybe slant a little right at times. And all of a sudden, it's the end of the world. Now you're talking about shutting it down. You're shutting down voices, shutting down a democracy, shutting down freedom of speech. Platforms like X and even TikTok, people are getting real stories on. And I understand, sure, you can make an argument for foreign interference. However, this country's never really taken that seriously when it's benefited them. But all of a sudden, it's going against them, or a potential could go against them, or something that even optically looks like it could go against them. They're on it. Let's ban it. Because we even have the Supreme Court of Canada who moved away from social media platform X. That happened as well. But then to kind of finish the cake off and bring credence to the concerns that people are having and the fact that these ideas are being pushed, we have Michelle Rebel Garner from her, I think it was like a 10-minute video she did, and this is one clip from it.
Big examples of what they're proposing to do and something that they're already doing. So a couple of weeks ago, a very senior liberal, he made this comment. He said, the federal government must make sure that they don't screw the thing up and make sure that we aren't denied our rightful place to make our own choices in the next election. What was he talking about? The platform X. He was saying that X should be banned in Canada. And that's becoming more and more of a topic of conversation among liberals. They're saying that an entire social media platform should be banned. And when you listen to that quote, what are they trying to say? They're worried that social media platforms that allow for discourse to happen will be banned so that they can have more control of the message. Now,
that was a concern. That's a concern they're having. You're hearing this again. You're hearing this messaging coming out more and more, and expect more of it as we get closer to an election here in Canada. Expect more of it. The priming will continue because Canadians just don't wake up one day and saying, I'm against free speech today. No, it comes through priming through media. It comes through priming through our political officials. And eventually over time, you do enough of that over time, all of a sudden people are in favor of things like this because they've bought into propaganda and a false message. You know, because like if you ban X, like, you know what I'm saying? If you ban X and you ban voices on social media, then people like me can't bring stuff to you and laugh at stuff like this. Stinking Mark Carney today, right? Going to a steel factory, the one where we said, no, we don't really use steel in our everyday lives. Come on there, Todd. You know, that Mark Carney, yeah, he went to a steel factory and couldn't find any steel workers to join him. But he made sure to bring some of the Liberal cabinet and some Liberals with him to dress up for him and stand in the back for him. This looks terrible. Optically, it looks like a joke. The best part is the fact that they took space away in a factory to do a photo op, which likely caused workers to not be able to do their jobs for a portion of time to make sure Mark Carney got his photo op. And the best part is that the jet flying, limousine riding, Mark Carney, flight path, just flying everywhere in Southern Ontario. Flew to Toronto to hang out with Ford for a bit, then flew from Toronto to Hamilton, then Hamilton back to Ottawa. Flying everywhere. I thought we hated oil and gas. And if we don't have X, then how can Andy Lee call out crap like this? We have Justin Trudeau posted today saying, 17 years ago, the people of Papineau put their trust in me. They gave me a chance to do good by our community and a few years later, do good by our country. That's a privilege I'll forever be grateful for. Thank you, Papineau. Then Andy Lee hits him with some receipts. Andy Lee says, these are the people of Papineau. And posts a tweet that she posted March 2nd of 2023. It says, I would say a lot of people making near max donations to Justin Trudeau's Papineau Riding Association from outside of Quebec, and particularly from British Columbia, before and during the 2015 election is not ordinary at all. And just names. If you look closely at the names, I don't think I can get much closer than this. No, it's not gonna let me. If you're able to zoom in at any point, you can read who those names are, which names off a couple. We have Chun-Li Hong on this one, Angela Wu, Junji, Yu Zhang, Gilbert Eng, and which a lot are coming from BC. Fascinating. Read them out. Gives you an idea of what it's about. So did the people of Papineau really elect Justin Trudeau? I mean, they did. They had to. But it is wild that a lot of Trudeau's campaign was propped up by money from donors from BC and Ontario. A lot of it not coming from Quebec, which is where his riding resides. Oh, more evidence that the Liberals have been in bed with Beijing. Oh, great. Love to see it. Oh my gosh. But again, we take away X. We get to miss stories like this and showing the corruption that is happening in our country. And that's the problem I'm seeing and why this next election is so consequential. Liberals win, even a minority. Shows like mine, probably going away. Your voice online will be suppressed. The freedom of sharing information will be gone. That's why this next election will be so consequential when it comes. And we should be getting an election call, I would say, in the next 5 to 7 days here soon. It'll be interesting to watch. But anyways, enjoy your afternoon. I love you. I'm out.